Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about, do customer success managers need to go through sales training? And if so, what would that look like? Do they even need sales skills? And for this amazing topic, I have the one and only Richard Harris, who is the founder of the Harris Consulting Group. He's been doing sales training for a very long time and naturally found himself doing sales training for customer success managers as well. So on today's video, we are going to talk about what does that look like, how did this came about, and everything else you need to know about sales skills and customer success. Hey, Richard, thanks for joining us.
It is my pleasure. It's always good to see you.
All right, thanks for coming back. Richard, we met, like a decade ago? I want to say, I remember the day Nick Mehta, back then the freshly new CEO of the company, waltzes into the room, introduces you, and tells us this incredible story about how he met you on an airplane, happened to sit next to you. And he didn't say that, but basically what I heard is that this guy, Richard, sold him on a consulting gig while flying from somewhere to somewhere.
We were going from Austin to San Francisco on a Friday night. I was coming back from my first week of training at my very first client ever in Austin, sit next to Nick. And the next thing I know, I got a second client.
You started working with sales teams. And then in the recent years, every now and then somebody would ask you to do those sales workshops and trainings that you do for customer success teams.
Yeah.
How does this happen? Like, how would they justify calling you? What kind of problems were they trying to solve?
Well, it happens in a lot of places. And there's sort of two ways it actually started to happen. One, I would be talking to heads of sales and, I'd be saying, well, who's on your team? What size is this? What size is that? Who's doing the upsell, cross-sell? And so oftentimes it's customer success. And I'm like, customer success isn't generally wired to do selling. And a lot of times customer success thinks the word sales is a dirty word, which a lot of people do. So it's not a customer success thing. It's everybody thinks we're all cruddy, used car salesmen. And what I always remind customer success people is most of the time, customer success is better at sales than salespeople are. And it's because of this one question customer success people learn or naturally gravitate to for whatever reason. And it's, hey, Reed, before I answer that question, what are you really trying to accomplish here? Before we even start onboarding you, let's make sure I understand what you were trying to accomplish so that then customer success can guide. And I teach this to salespeople all the time. I'm like, you should know these folks are wired at it differently. So that's one of the things that I noticed. The other thing that I did a lot too was oftentimes with certain companies, there's only 4 customer success people, but there's 15 salespeople. If you like this and you want them to come, just have them come. I keep cohorts to about 25 when I do training because it gets too big. But if someone's got a team of 15, I tell them, bring marketing, bring customer success, bring this stuff because the skills are the same. I teach the value of open and closed-ended questions and not like, well, what are they? And get a yes or a no. Like open-ended questions force us to shut up, which I think customer success is better at than sales. Closed-ended questions force a decision to be made, which means a rational mind. So how do I teach someone to do that? How do I teach them those pieces? And then I can do things like multiple choice questions and mirroring and labeling and using the words and versus but, all these little tactics along the way. And this is all just conversational stuff. And then I also teach the psychology of how humans even make decisions. So that gets in there. So all this stuff applies. And whenever I train with multiple teams, I say, look, this is how you do it in sales. I wouldn't say it this way in customer success. Here's how I would say it. I want people to have their own authentic voice. And I recognize that customer success can't walk away from a deal like sales can. The deal is done. So how do we make sure the customer success can take the things I do and fit it into their world? But the concepts are all the same.
That's so true. And I think that a lot of customer success teams can benefit from this type of training. I'm going to hire somebody like me. I can suggest what the process would be and the policies would be and how to leverage the system so that we can have a more scalable process. But
I hate that stuff. Like I'm not the process guy. I can easily build a simple process and show you what to do in Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever you're using, but I won't touch your CRM. I'll help you define the exit criteria. I'll help you figure out what are the right questions you should be asking. But I'm not the go all to the more complex places. If you're selling an enterprise solution, you got customer success. There's generally a team on that customer success. There's an implementation team, and you've got the technical side, and then the effective side. You got all these things. I couldn't do that. I could probably put it together, but I'd be like, need your help.
What else do you teach, Richard? So obviously communication skills, or how to be in the conversation in a way that fosters either an open discussion so you can better understand what the customers want, but also putting in the right questions to get a decision. Do you find the conversation is a bit different when we do upsells or renewals versus a new customer? If you liked what you've heard so far, that's awesome. More coming in a second here, but in the meantime, I want you to click that like button so that YouTube knows that this is great content and you can start sharing it with others.
Yeah, I think so too, because I think, first of all, the rapport is there. That doesn't necessarily mean the trust is there, because if someone's had a bad experience and they're ready to churn, you have rapport to have a conversation. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to have a comfortable conversation. So I think that's really important to recognize. And the same thing happens in sales in just different parts of the cycle. For customer success, one of the things that I think about, and so often I see customer success teams being built, which often means an earlier stage company. And it's like, okay, how fast do we get them onboarded? Okay, how quick can we upsell them? And what are our QBRs going to look like? And what data are we going to share with them? And which is all good stuff. It feels so minimalistic and finite, but that's not a bad thing, because if you're a startup, you got to get to that point. I get it. But where are you going to have that meaningful conversation? Should they be monthly? Should they be quarterly? You could have to push back on me, but I don't think quarterly conversations are enough in customer success. You could push back and say, well, Richard, if it's this kind of solution, trust me, they don't want to talk to you. And that also means you don't have to actually talk to them. I think there should be a monthly touch point. In most cases, they may not be a request to talk. They might be, hey, I saw this great article that made me think of you. I hope you find it useful.
Yeah.
Just showing them that they're top of mind. Hey, I'm here. By the way, we do have this new use case. It's about this and this. If you want to talk about it, let me know. So little things like that, to me, even if they say no, shows that you care, so that by the time you have to have uncomfortable conversations, or before they become really uncomfortable, at least you've done your job to keep the rapport there. And certainly by the time renewal conversations come up, it's not like, oh, so you got 2 weeks to sign up. By the way, our price is going up 15%. That kind of stuff is really important to me. So touch points that don't require an upsell, that offer value. And value to me means nothing in return. Don't expect anything in return.
I hope that everybody that listens to this video that has a medium touch or low touch enablement program, meaning I have about 35 customers or more assigned to me as a customer success manager, listens to this, because you might get a policy that says you need to have a touch point with your customers every 3 months. And maybe it's a business review, maybe it's not. But what Richard is saying is this aspect in sales that says you have to build your relationship. Relationship building doesn't happen quarterly. It happens by letting the other person know that they are top of mind. So when you do see opportunities to engage with them in a meaningful way, meaning a way that is relevant to the account. You saw something that they mentioned before. It's an interesting article about something that they said, whether it's personal, by the way, or related to their business. It's a great way to just take the opportunity to send that. So Richard, we talked about 2 really important elements in sales that would be totally applicable to customer success. One, questions we ask during conversations with customers and the importance of open-ended questions and when to actually leverage closed-ended questions. We talked about relationship building and how to build trust and rapport throughout the relationship to increase that opportunity to have them answer our questions. What type of customer success teams mainly call you? Are those mature ones that's been in business for a few years, or completely new ones? Before we continue, don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel and smash that notification button so that you don't miss out on any new videos.
It's both. So oftentimes when customer success comes, it's usually because of sales training. And they're like, oh, we can go learn some stuff here. They get tagged along. I have a flat rate up to 25 people, so I don't charge by the head. The customer success teams, they typically need to have about anywhere from 6 or more customer success people for them to feel like it's okay and worth it. It also depends on what's the value of the renewal or the upsell. If you're selling things that are $5,000 or $6,000 a year, that becomes a little bit harder for you to justify the cost of it, but it doesn't mean it's not something you should do. Like this team I'm talking to yesterday, I think they only had about 4 or 5, but part of it is they want to start to have a common language. And they're going to go through a big growth piece this year, and they want everything in place. Normal team sizes are 10 or 12. It depends on where the investment is and if people understand it. And for me, when I'm selling to customer success, I'm not selling against the contract value. I'm selling against the lifetime value. My job is to make sure that your customer success people help your customers stay at least 3 or 4 years. So if your average deal size is 50 grand a year, my job is to make sure you get 3 years out of that customer. So it's 150 grand.
Richard, so you do upsell, cross sell, you teach how to secure the renewals, multiply it, and all of that through understanding how to handle people during the renewal cycle and ongoing, really just building the relationship and handling things better.
Yeah, you said it best. It's all communication skills.
Yeah. For those of you who are watching this video, actually subscribe to Richard's newsletter. I actually am subscribed to it and I love reading them. They're so tactful and tactical. They always make me think. Sometimes they make me laugh. Tons of good data, tons of good advice. I think you're doing an incredible job at it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Besides subscribing to Richard's newsletter, also subscribe to his podcast, Surf and Sales. Why surf?
We have an event that we do 3 times a year called Surf and Sales. Our next one's in May, where we take about 15 people down to Costa Rica in about 4-ish hours each day on content. The content is generated by the people who attend. So when you come, because you're going to need to come, we'd have you talk to these leaders and sales reps to understand the value of customer success that they don't get. They don't get to hang out with someone like you. Yeah, so we do it. We do 1 in May, we got 2 in November, and then we decided to do a podcast. And so we created the podcast, and that's sort of how it all came about.
Guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps a lot. So thank you for those who have already done that. And as always, I'll see you at the next video.